Murdaugh, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Interview room, everybody, on this beautiful Sabbath evening. So great to have you here. Have we got a show for you this evening? Just a wonderful guest, an amazing attorney. Our special guest tonight is Mark Tinsley, the attorney for the family of Mallory Beach. Mallory was the 19-year-old girl killed in the 2019 boat wreck involving Paul Murdaugh. Mark is a top-ranked personal injury attorney with the firm Gooding & Gooding in Allendale, South Carolina. He's a 1998 graduate of the University of South Carolina Law School. Mark has been selected as a super lawyer. That is a true statement. His status was not only in 2021, 2022, but also this year, 23. And he received the highest compliment, I think, in the courtroom when Judge Clifton Newman called him a tiger for his legal prowess. And this was during the sentencing phase of Alec Murdaugh. So without further ado, a wonderful human being and a great attorney is our special guest tonight entering the interview room, Mr. Mark Tinsley. Counselor, Mark, how are you, buddy?
Good. Good evening, Chris. I thought you were talking about somebody else for a few minutes.
Actually, I know, right? Sometimes it's hard to listen to, other folks talk about you, I bet.
Yeah.
It's a difficult task.
I knew you were going to say Eric Bland any second, but
he was on the tip of my tongue, by the way. I almost blasted it out there, but I figured you're going to get higher ratings than him tonight anyway. So that ought to be a good thing. So
good.
First of all,
that's all that matters. That's
absolutely. How's your life? Let's start there real fast. How's Mark doing and everything falling into place for you?
My life is good. Most days it's like drinking from a fire hydrant with a 10-foot hose, but my life is very good. Today's my 1-year anniversary to my beautiful wife, Stephanie. So happy anniversary to Stephanie.
Wait a minute. I've got you on your anniversary.
But she's in Nashville. So we just got back. Yeah. We just got back from the Keys. So we've been in the Keys all week.
Oh, that's fantastic. Where'd you go? What can I ask? But did you go down to the Keys down on the bottom there? Down Duval Street and stuff? Or where'd you stay?
Well, we were in Alamorada.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Alamorada. Yeah.
So that's where you got that's where you got
nice.
That's where you got the tan. you look pretty.
Yeah. Some tan, some burn. Yeah.
Yeah, you look pretty tan there. And Nashville, I don't know. My wife and I have traveled a lot, but we used to live in Spring Hill, just outside of Franklin, for quite some time, actually. Just right after I'd retired, we initially moved to that area. So love Nashville. Great people. Just solid people. Well, congratulations on your 1 year anniversary, everybody. put it up in the chat there. This fine gentleman on his anniversary. I feel bad now, that this your anniversary. But if she's in Nashville, you can say hi, hon. Hopefully she's watching, and if not, she's a smart woman.
She's a smart woman for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? All right. So it's over. The Murdaugh trial is over. I mean, for now, right? I mean, it's still moving, but now that Mallory's case is, there's a date set for the 14th, right? I lose you?
Yeah, you lost me. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. So Mallory's, there's a case date trial set for August 14th. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And that's in the boat crash case. Yeah. So,
Okay. Is there anything that you're able to share about that, if anything, with bearing in mind it's a case ongoing, and if not, don't worry about it.
yeah, it's a long time coming. It's been complicated by and delayed by a number of factors, not the least of which is the double murder trial that just finished. There's Greg Parker's company is represented by a senator. He's asserted legislative immunity that's delayed things till August, but we're going to go in August for sure. We're going to go, and I think the only person in the courtroom that wants the case over more than me is the judge. So we're going to go.
And how are those judges assigned, Mark? I mean, in terms of who presides over those types of cases?
This judge was assigned by the Supreme Court, sort of on its own. Unbeknownst to me, after I filed the suit, two of the local judges, there were two resident judges in the 14th Circuit, and they both recused themselves from the case. And I assume one of those judges at the time was the chief administrative judge, contacted the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court assigned Judge Hall. I didn't know Judge Hall before this, but he's a very good judge. I'm very pleased that he's been over it.
Had you known Judge Newman before that particular trial?
Yeah, I've known Judge Newman for, I feel like, close to 20 years. I tried a case in front of Judge Newman and got a real good result probably 15 years ago. And after he sentenced Alec, I went back, and his wife was in his chambers, and he told his wife about that case I'd tried in front of him. And so he's very, they couldn't have picked a better judge to preside over that case. And I told him that he was perfect in every way in his temperament. I asked him why he wasn't that good when I tried my case in front of him, but he was really good.
He's being called America's judge now. I mean, he's just kind of blasted all over the social media platforms as, America's judge. I mean, he just had such a level set about himself. You could tell it was not his first rodeo, coming into this one.
No. Right. Yeah. He called them the way he saw them. And he would let both sides have their say as long as they wanted to. I thought he was, he let them say more than I would have probably at times, but then he made his ruling, and he stuck to it, and he was consistent. And, I think from a lawyer's perspective, he let the lawyers try their case. They might not have liked every ruling, but he let everybody do pretty much what they wanted to do. And but he controlled the show. He was first class in every respect. His temperament was the best of everything, and I can imagine there's a lot of pressure in that spectacle, that circus environment. And it was a circus environment. If you were in the courtroom, it was kind of nuts, but slow and steady.
So when you've practiced in the court like that, had you ever seen anything in your illustrious career that just, you just had to shake your head and go, holy cow, this, to your description of it being a circus. And I know you mean that in the right way. But I could not believe that Harpootlian was allowed just to walk anywhere he wanted in that courtroom at any time. And I kind of struck me one time when I saw him walk in front of, the solicitor and the expert witness during her testimony. And I was like, holy cow. And I've been in a lot of courtrooms, sitting at the table as an investigator, but I'd never seen anything like it. Is that normal?
I think several times it looked to me he was walking around to get a look at whatever demonstrative exhibit they were talking about. And that would be normal. I mean, you would typically stand at the end of the jury box so you can see what she's demonstrating to the jury and what she's pointing out. That was very normal. A few times he walked up. I saw him a couple of times walk up and say something to Jim Griffin. He's Dick. I've known Dick a while too. And
was it to throw the rhythm off, do you think? You think his strategy was kind of throw the rhythm?
Dick told me before I got on the stand, he said, we focus group this and the jury just doesn't buy the financial aspect. That's, well, I hope you can get your money back.
I love it.
I don't know if walking around the courtroom was every time was trying to throw it off, but Dick definitely would try to throw your rhythm off.
Yeah. Well, and he definitely threw the audience off. So it was somewhat working. I mean, because I think people were really surprised to see him just kind of, because I watched every moment of the trial, and it says, oh, there goes Harpo there, right through the middle of the well in front of the witness as she's testifying. I'm thinking, holy cow. Now I've seen of course you go behind the DA. Well, the DA's asking questions. It's not a problem, but I've never seen him cut right through the middle of the racetrack. It was amazing. It was amazing. But you know the gentleman, and I hear he's a fine lawyer and he's a fine man.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
He provided a lot of comic relief, and it would seem like to me when he would make jokes, oftentimes about himself, but he would make a joke and there would be a response. Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, you have a little lag, but you're okay. Yeah, okay. A little. You're cool.
Okay. Well, that's part of living in the country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You're good. That's a blessing. So just out of curiosity, during Alex's trial, Mallory's father, I want to ask you this question. He was in the court for sentencing. There was some contact between him and John Marvin. Can you comment about that, if you know?
Yeah. When John, they couldn't find a parking place. So we were sort of the last ones coming into the courthouse, I thought. And as a result, the seats got taken up towards the front, and the Beach family sat towards the back of the courtroom, and John Marvin and Buster and maybe all of the Murdaugh family that was there came in at the very end. And so he said that he saw John Marvin come in, they made eye contact, and then John Marvin sat down, and later, as everyone was leaving, John Marvin came up and said, I didn't see you back here. and he and I didn't see it, but I was told, and that's what happened. There were a number of people standing by.
So you
you know,
just, the moment you said it, you just dropped out. So just kind of say that last part again, just before you said something, and then you went to space. Elon Musk got you, sent you back down, and you're here again.
So Philip Beach felt like that John Marvin had seen him when he entered the courtroom originally. And then after Alec was sentenced, John Marvin made a point to come back to the back of the courtroom because they were waiting on me to get out of the judge's chambers. And he said that John Marvin said he didn't see him back there. And Philip felt like he had seen him, and it almost felt like he was politicking in a way. And so he just put up his hands and didn't shake his hand. I think that Philip feels like that John Marvin was helpful with some of the things that happened the night of the boat crash or the morning of the boat crash. I don't know, other than communicating back and forth. I don't know that he was, but there's still some hard feelings.
Yeah. So let's talk about Alex's the trial there for a sec. You're on the witness stand for 2 days. What was that like?
Yeah. So I was in Mexico when they first got to me, and I couldn't get back. And so when the judge said, well, we'll wait on Mr. Tinsley to get back on Monday. So there was a little bit of pressure in just having held them up, which wasn't my intent. They thought they were going to get to me later that week. And so, but there was a lot of pressure to bring sort of all of this financial stuff together and explain it, why Alec believed that this was the only option. It's not something that makes sense, I think, to normal people, but he knew that if he were the victim of a vigilante, then the lawsuit would be over. I think he believed that he had pacified Jeannie Seckinger, done whatever he had been doing for the last 15 years, and it had skated past that. He was working on getting a loan from Palmetto State Bank. We now know this. I didn't know it at the time. So he was going to be able to return the Ferris fees. And, I think in his mind, this was the linchpin to getting it away with everything. And I don't know how you get to that point, but so there was a lot of pressure in making sure that Judge Newman understood why these crimes, these financial crimes, the things that were happening, had brought so much pressure on Alec and were an issue for him, and that would drive him to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously it sounded like their theory is they had to tie it all together, and that the financial crimes was obviously one of the motivating factors, which, in terms of the pressure, I don't think the general public understands, the totality of, what all that was going on. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think you're exactly right. Just look at it from the perspective of where he was before they charged him. He's facing 800 years worth of financial crimes. It's going to be, most likely they're going to 3-strike him with 3 felonies, and he'll get life without parole on the financial crimes. He would have known that was over. He would have known his law license was gone, and that this position of power would be over, and then this mar on his family's name. I think that was probably a lesser consideration for Alec, knowing Alec like I think I know Alec. He was only really concerned about Alec. The family name would have been the last consideration, but he would have known the consequences. And, I referenced Danny Henderson. Danny Henderson was is a partner in the firm. He was acting as Alex personal counsel throughout the Beach trial. He wasn't a lawyer in the case, but he was intimately involved in every aspect. And, I even demonstrated to the jury and told the jury that guy in the back seat of the police car who reaches up and squeezes Alec's shoulder while he's crying, that's the guy. That's the guy that Alec was worried about, more so than he was worried about me, the tiger on his tail. I mean, Danny Henderson would have reviewed the financial records before I got them.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have known that, these lawyers only get one big lump once a year. They don't get it throughout. There shouldn't be all these transfers. And when you look at the bank records, I mean, it's pretty obvious. He wasn't really hiding what he was doing. Nobody was looking for a long time.
But Mark, I was going to say, how did it stay under the umbrella for so long in terms of underground? I mean, you're right. I mean, when you look at it and you hear it now, you go, well, what was going on?
Well, the bank was helping him. Russell Laffitte's been convicted six different indictments, felony indictments in federal court. He was convicted in November. Most of those were conspiracy, and so he had help. He had help, and then once he figured out how to manipulate the system to keep it under the radar, he was a well-oiled stealing machine by that point, and knew how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Is that because of obviously there's got to be history here that goes back? I mean, I know that they pretty much ran that solicitor's office for almost 100 years, but at the same time, was it just the name, or was it he was just good at manipulating?
Oh, he is a gifted liar.
Yeah.
And a master manipulator. No, there's no question about it. I mean, I don't. You read his emails, you read his text. They're full of grammatical errors, misspellings. I mean, he is probably genius level manipulator, but he's not a banking expert. He's not a legal expert. I mean, in the Russell Laffitte trial, one of the prosecutors made a point of pointing out that Alec always had to have somebody like Russell Laffitte to help him with the details. Ronnie Crosby, who most of the big cases, Ronnie Crosby was involved in handling the technical aspects. Ronnie is a fantastic lawyer, mm-hmm. and Alec was dealing with the people. And so there's sort of a, not by design, a Chinese wall in terms of the division of responsibilities. You're handling the case. He's handling the people. The money comes in. You think everything's going because, for the most part, this is a self-regulating system. I've settled your case, Chris, for $100. You're going to pay me a third, and you're due $67 or whatever it is. And so you ought to be able to know that I haven't given you your money but he figured out how to do it. And it was interesting to me that some of the lawyers even testified that the people still liked Alec. Some of his financial victims still had nice things to say about him after he'd stolen from them.
Yeah, people trusted him, even after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
They still were like, "Yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's got $4 million that belong to you." And that's a hypothesis, but hypothetical. But it's kind of like, man, oh man. So, just out of curiosity, did you feel at any time that you sensed Mallory and that you were speaking for her? I know it's a difficult question, but
I knew Paul. Well, I knew Paul and Maggie, and this is not. I mean, I've seen comments people have said, that I'm seeking my 15 minutes of fame. There's nothing in me that relishes this or wants to be associated with the murder of these two people. Whatever their faults were, whatever they did wrong, they didn't deserve what happened to them.
Right.
And it was the most heinous to me. And the reason I think that they should have sought the death penalty is I gave him the option of a payment plan. I mean, he had $3.5 million in May of 19 in his pocket that he had just stolen from the Satterfields. I mean, it's in his pocket. He's actively stealing money. He steals money continuously from 19 until he's caught. And what this is a stupid thing to say, I understand it, but what rational person, if you're actively getting away with something, doesn't take those stolen funds and buy your way out of this versus you want the money and you decide that the option is to kill your wife and son? It's just, it really speaks to,
I mean, he was
just
pretty
what a
much
monster
running.
I think he is.
Yeah, no, he was pretty much running almost a Ponzi scheme if we look for a description of it somewhat. I mean, you're right. He should have stole from Peter to pay Paul, just to kind of keep things moving in the right direction. But you're right. Something changed. Something changed.
Something changed. Originally, early on, that's what he was doing. He was stealing. He would, his debt with the bank would go up $4 or $5 million. He would steal. He would pay it down. The debt would immediately go back up, and so he was just sort of moving the money from here to there, and like you said, robbing from Peter to pay Paul. But after the boat crash, he's liquidating these funds, and he's actively cashing these checks. I mean, I've seen the 384 checks or 426 checks to Eddie Smith, whatever it is. Those things they're made out to E.W. Smith, Eddie Smith, Ed Smith, every iteration of Eddie Smith that you can come up with, and they look to me like they're signed by different people. I know he had a number of people that were cashing checks for him for money. I think you heard testimony from one person who was cashing checks, but I think that's what Eddie Smith was doing as well for the most part. He didn't pay Eddie Smith $2.5 million for drugs. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I had a laugh when that came up. That he's paying his drug dealer with checks. I'm like, yeah, sure. I worked over 300 murders. A lot of them, dope deals gone sideways, and I never had a single dope deal where somebody was cutting another guy for checks, saying, hey, here you go. Here's a check. Where's my product? Yeah. Anyway, thought?
No.
Yeah. Now they wash checks, they steal them out of mailboxes and then cash them. Right. I mean, you and I
right.
But how bad I don't buy, and this is just my personal opinion, not yours. My personal opinion is this addiction problem here was hocus pocus. Yeah,
I agree. It was, and we saw it at the end, right? I mean, you saw him talk about, I was addicted. I was paranoid. I was paranoid. At one point, I was headed to Nashville, and he was on the stand, and I texted Creighton Waters, and I said, he just said he was paranoid about everything, but he wasn't paranoid about me or the law firm. He's paranoid about cars that are going by, but he's not paranoid about the two people who are about to uncover and pull the thread on this thing and unravel it all. But no, I think that's always what it was. I mean, the roadside shooting, the BS life insurance, which there is none, all of that was just a spin to, and I mean, I remember right before they arrest Eddie Smith, Jim Griffin is still saying, "Oh no, he was shot. It was a shooter. He didn't have anything to do with it." I think into Saturday, but by Sunday we knew they had Eddie Smith.
The moment you heard about that, tell me about what you thought the moment you heard about the shooting. That's not on my list, by the way. I'm just thinking out loud.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't remember all the questions are on your list anyway, so it's fine. I was I had just come from Nashville, and we were in the car, and I got a call. And if the call didn't simultaneously tell me that the deputies on the scene were saying there's something going on, it was within seconds after that. So, I mean, I don't even think he's in the helicopter yet. And that, you know, he was loaded. Some people say, why was he loaded in the helicopter? It's standard protocol. If there's a gunshot wound to the head, they dispatch the helicopter. And so that didn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we knew that it was, and then, you know, within an hour or two, I think I knew that he'd been fired from the law firm. And then shortly thereafter, they released whatever statement from him. At least that's my recollection. But no, I, in the week before, the rumor on the street is that the Attorney General's office had impaneled the Colleton County grand jury, and I believe Alec thought he was about to be indicted, and that was the exigent circumstance that pushed him to that point at that time.
Do you think he was he had contemplated taking out cousin Eddie and throwing it all on him? No.
This was he I think he really thought that he was going to get away with it always, and so that was a way to say, see, somebody really is after me and my family, and I didn't shoot my family. Mm-hmm. Somebody's after me, and so no.
Yeah, so it was
that might have been a better plan.
Mm-hmm.
He probably thinks he should have done that now, but that's not what happened.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because do we even know if Eddie actually fired the gun, or is that and then he just missed? I mean, or did Alec just kind of we don't even know what the totality of those circumstances are, because I don't think he's ever come to the front and said, other than what he's told the story here. But what do you believe anymore, right? Yeah.
You know, Dick a number of times said there was an entrance and an exit wound. I subpoenaed Alec's medical records sort of out of the gate right afterwards. He's probably still in Atlanta when I send a subpoena to Savannah for his medical records, which they tried to stop. They tried to keep me from getting those. And it doesn't look like any bullet wound I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I still don't believe that they shot him. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he hit him in the head with a hammer, ice pick. I don't know. I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just, even looking at some of the photographs of, the bandage wrapped around his head and stuff, it just didn't, we used to call that DLR, right? Does not look right. When you, well,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, head wounds bleed a lot. So, there was a fair amount of blood in that bandage. That I don't think that really means anything. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it was significant that he took his health insurance card and he made sure he had his health insurance card with him when they did whatever they were going to do. So there's a possibility. That's the first time I thought he could have actually just been stupid enough to try to graze one off his thick skull. But yeah, I don't buy it.
Well, yeah. And
not with the 38.
No, not, yeah. I will find out at some point. I'm sure there's some inmate will leak that into the environment one day. So let's talk about your testimony when, you told of an encounter where Alec tried to basically come up on you, right? And intimidate you.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. Right. Tell us about that. What else can you add to that story? I know you had a little limited testimony there, but set the stage for how that thing all went down.
Well, so, every year there's this trial lawyers, a bunch of plaintiffs lawyers together in Hilton Head. And I can't remember, when everybody going out to dinner, they go out in large groups. And
sure.
I don't remember whether this was before supper or when everybody starts to come back. My recollection is it's before. And there's two reasons for that. But so I see Alec sees me, sort of beelines across, and I mean, it's still a big deal. This is August. I filed suit against him shortly after the boat crash in February, and he gets right up in my face and he says, "Hey, Bo, what's this? I've been hearing about what you've been saying." And what he was talking about was the fact that I'd been telling his lawyer that he was going to have to pay. He's going to have to pay personally. For a long time, I think he thought, you heard a couple of times during the trial, somebody said maybe Ronnie Crosby or Mark Ball, a friendly lawsuit, but knew about a friendly lawsuit. I think he thought he was just in it for venue purposes or for some other friendly purpose. And that was never the case. And he didn't like it. He was upset by it. And he was letting me know that he was upset about it. And I told him, if you don't think I can burn your house down, you're wrong. And and I had shown John Tiller. There were lots of videos of Paul with alcohol, lots of videos of Paul without drinking alcohol with Maggie and Alec. And I had all those. I had sat with his lawyer, John Tiller, and shown him those videos. And, there's a video of Alec receiving a Jello shot from 17-year-old Morgan Dowdy that I had. And it was, there's some damning videos I've recently seen. I don't know if it's a TikTok video or somebody's posted where some advertisement that Alec did where video is worth 1,000 words or something, and he really believes in it. And and so I had 100,000 word videos, and they all pointed to the fact that alcohol was a big part of everyday life in their family, and they condoned it, they promoted it, and it just it meant some serious liability for him. And it was the kind of thing that Greg Parker, who was obsessed with the fact that this was a friendly lawsuit, in my opinion, that they just were looking for and wanted. So that's what I was telling him.
Yeah, no, that made sense. And so when
later
go ahead. Later that night.
Well, yeah, later that night, we just so happened to be in the same restaurant, and I was out with my partner and some other lawyers and Alec and my recollection, Alec and Buster, and they came up and they spoke to everybody, but they didn't speak to me. And I told one of the lawyers at the table at that time about our encounter, and I thought it was interesting, when he denied that it ever happened. Adamantly denied that it ever happened when he testified. When I watched the video and I said what I said he said and what I said, I saw him lean over to Jim Griffin. You could go back and watch it, and he says, "That's not what he said," or "That ain't what he said."
That's not how it
the way I
happened.
read his lips, that ain't what he said.
I saw that. I did. I remember that piece. Yeah. And so that's exactly how it went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. It is. And I mean, I told one of the lawyers, I said, well, I've been lying about this before the murders for years, because I've consistently told this story now since August of 2019 and to a number of people. So it's okay.
Well, the truth is a constant, and you cannot beat around that. And Alec just found out what that means. So, oops. What was the reaction of everybody at the table when he walked away and you told them?
It was very tense anyway. Everything was sort of, so no, I mean, just, that was awkward.
That's going to leave a mark.
That was what that was awkward. And then I explained what I'd said earlier. And so it made a little more sense. There was a lot of attention on the fact that I've practiced law with a number of the partners in that firm. I've tried cases with those lawyers. I've said it, I'll continue to say it. They're some of the best lawyers that I've ever had the pleasure of having worked with. which is part of the reason why I don't buy for 1 second the drug that he was taking. And if you do the math, even if we said $30,000 a week and they're $80 a pill, I mean, it's a tremendous, I mean, it's, it's 4 to 6, 80. If he only sleeps 5 hours a day, it's still like 4 an hour. He can't do that.
No. And plus everything, if he's got that kind of opioid addiction, then, you're going to be nodding off every 2 to 3 hours. And
well,
go ahead.
You can't steal tens of millions of dollars from some of the sharpest lawyers and manipulate everybody. And I mean, can you imagine? Imagine. I mean, the problem with a lie is it's such an insidious thing, right? It's like cancer. You got these tentacles, and you don't know where it's going to trip you up. He's told thousands of lies. He's got thousands of balls in the air, and he's juggling them all. And you want us to believe that he is actively taking so many opioids that he's out of control and doesn't remember in his period. No, it's no way. No way.
Yeah, I thought that was a tactical error to go down that route as a defense, or at least even introduce it as a possibility, because I agree with you 1,000%. There was, it just wouldn't have made it didn't make any sense. And even to this day, we're still talking about it. The jury didn't buy it. As he said, oh, what webs we weave. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was doing it.
Yeah. Oh, what web? Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. I mean, the irony of that is,
you can't make that up, right? That came right out. That came right out of him. So, in your opinion, why Maggie? Why Maggie? Why Maggie? I know all the pressure's building with Paul because of his conduct, and because remember, every behavior has a purpose. Every behavior has a purpose. So, go ahead.
If you recall from my test, this is why Mark Tinsley thanks Maggie. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there could be another reason. But when I found out that I had cancer in the fall of 20, so the murders are in June of 21, and in November, I know that I'm going to be gone to, Florida for 4.5 months, beginning in January, and I'll come back mid-April. I also know that John Tiller, Alec's lawyer, has pancreatic cancer, which is generally a 1-year life sentence, right? And so, and John knows that, and John wants to finish the case, and he wants to end this case, to try this case, this be his last case. And so there's a sense of urgency that we get this done. And but you have the pandemic, so the courts are shut down. They're just starting to come back online in the fall of 20. If the county has a COVID plan, and Hampton County didn't have a COVID plan, so we didn't have terms of court. I was leaving for 4 months, and there was the issue was whether or not the case was going to remain in Hampton, where Alec was from and reigned, or go to Beaufort, where you have a lot of people who don't have these strong connections. At least, Alec doesn't know all the people like he would in Hampton. And so I'd made up my mind I was going to go to Beaufort. And I told you, I had all of these videos. Well, one of the first things that I did when I got involved in the case was I went to Maggie's Facebook, and Maggie's Facebook was just picture and video after picture and video of Paul with alcohol, Paul in the boat with alcohol, Paul loading the coolers, Paul sitting on the sandbar with beer between his legs, and all of Paul with Morgan and Alec and Maggie at their house, and he's got a beer in his hand, and videos from out to dinner, and there were photographs that she had clicked on, so there wasn't any question that had she seen them, she liked them. And so I had screenshotted those, and I had those things, and I'd shown them to John Tiller. And so in November, I sent request to admit, which I started telling Creighton Waters about this, the request to admit. because I think this is the why Maggie. Those photographs clearly documented that Maggie knew about Paul's drinking. And let's assume that I don't have any evidence of Alec knowledge of that, because the claim really is a negligent entrustment claim. That is, you know that he has a propensity to drink alcohol to excess. You nonetheless entrusted him with a vehicle. In this case, it's a boat. So I sent requests to admit to Alec in November to admit that everything that Maggie knew, that all of the things that by then had been sanitized from her Facebook account were imputed to him for purposes of liability. And what I really was doing was extending an olive branch to Alec as a way to, because I knew Maggie was upset about it. You heard some testimony from Blanca about how upset she was about the boat crash in the case.
Yeah.
And so here's a way to protect your wife, this person that you love more than anything, keep her from being sued. Well, he denied them in December of 20. He denied those. And so what that does to me as the lawyer on the other side is it then forces me to have to sue Maggie, because I can't run the risk that I can't get all of this evidence in because it's not relevant, because, you and your wife, Karen, Karen knows for sure, but how do we know that just because Karen knows? It may or may not come into evidence.
Right. You need two
and so
separate tracks.
I was really shocked. Yeah, I was really shocked that he did that. And by then, Greg Parker's people had done extensive research into Alec's assets, and he was just consumed by what Alec had and all of these different properties. So I knew that Moselle was exclusively in Maggie's name. Now, I wasn't thinking about ever going to execute on his assets, because as I testified, I thought he had money. I believed he had money. I mean, he was actively making lots of money. So it was shocking to me. And it wasn't until after the murders that I really sort of put two and two together why he would do that. But that could be the why. The other part of it is that who's most likely to ask the most questions after this happens? Whether it's why Paul was there, who knows? I mean, you're talking about a sociopath and why a sociopath did what he did. But I think that in December of 20, the denial of those requests to admit indicated that he was already contemplating. And so when he told Maggie's sister, whoever did this had been planning for a long time, I think he told the truth then.
I agree with you. There's a study out of England. Her name is Dr. Smith, and she was she did a study about the 8 stages of domestic homicide, and Alec fit. I went back and I looked through the study again, and Alec fit all 8 stages, and I mean right up to the end. And it's interesting, because people are always going to ask, well, why Maggie? I mean, I kind of, people are going to be saying, well, I kind of get Paul because of the boat pressure and all this other stuff in his life falling around him, in terms of all the financial problems and stuff. But I think I don't think folks quite understand that. I think, when he killed, and we can say this now because he's been convicted, when he killed Paul, that Mama Bear came at him and he just turned and ended that as well. But I think people missed the fact that it was a coup de grace while she's on the ground. He not only mows her down, but he walks over and he shoots her while she's on the ground. And that to me told me everything I needed to know, about the kind of guy that you were trying to, deal with. So I thank you for your, your description of what you're talking about there. So let's, less than 3 hours. Did that surprise you? The verdict?
No, it really didn't surprise me. I think when Alec got on the stand and admitted that he was at the kennels, he had compressed the timeline such that there was just no way to get away from what happened. To get away from the shots, from the dog kennels. I mean, it's just too short a time. And so as soon as they don't buy that, it's over. And it sounds like in large part that was sort of the coup de grace for his defense as well. I mean, they didn't buy. He was at the dog kennels. He had lied about being at the dog kennels repeatedly to everyone. He clearly was trying. And, if you knew Alec, you can see when you hear him, when you watch him. When I was watching him I couldn't finish watching him testify because somebody texted me and she said, he's testifying exactly like you did on he's the evil you or something like that. I mean, because he was, he was relating it to different things that had happened. And like I tried to make all the pieces fit for the jury. And when I told you a moment ago, when I referenced Danny Henderson reaching forward, I said, that guy, that's the guy. You saw him in that video. That guy is the one he had to worry about. The person that's in the car with him when he's being questioned, that's the man that was watching over everything. And so, Alec was doing the same thing. And when I would watch him, if he said, I can't remember exactly, that's a tale. He has certain phrase. I would appreciate when you hear him on the video say, I'd appreciate. It's a suggestive ask without really asking.
Was Alec afraid of Danny too? Do you think? I mean, overall,
Dan, he definitely would have been afraid of Danny finding out for sure. I mean, he would have known just like what happened. I mean, Danny, I think it was, I don't remember what Ronnie said. It was Danny and Randy, I think, that actually confront Alec and he confessed. And, whatever he said, I didn't know why it took you so long or something. But I didn't know why it took you so long to catch me, Chris. I've been stealing from you for 15 years.
But and these are like they're right next door. They're right next to him this whole time, and he's got it. Well, we live three types of lives, right? I mean, we live a public life, a private life, and our secret life. And all sin and all crime occur in that secret life, And Alex certainly was good at hiding that. They're the best at doing it. So I'm curious as to. Did Danny talk about it after Alec kind of gave it up? No.
I haven't talked to Danny.
Yeah.
And I doubt he would talk about it to anyone.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, he's just because he felt not only the betrayal of it, just the fact that the totality of it.
I can't really stress enough. I mean, you heard some of the testimony of Mark Ball and talking about brothers and family. And I mean, these people practiced law, but their families were so intertwined. I mean, they lived life almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like family. Mm-hmm. They worked together, they played together, they ate together, they were together a lot. So, the level of betrayal is, I mean, yeah, you can't really overstate those feelings, I don't think, in terms of what they have to be feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think the folks understand that, you're really brothers in arms and sisters in arms. I mean, you, as lawyers, it's such a, and I'm only talking from, looking through a window in, right? And being around you folks for, 40 plus years, this idea of, this family makes total sense. I mean, you're together, your kids play together, you coach each other's baseball teams, and that's what was going on here. And then to have somebody in that circle be discovered not only the totality, the horrendous event here, but just even all the other stuff, coming up to it, all the financial stuff. It was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? That's my family. You violated my family now. That was, something that was, college and funds and, this and that. That's what was going on here. Am I off base on that?
No, no. In fact, I told Creighton Waters at one point. I said, you've got two kinds of family. You've got the family you were born with, and you got the family that you choose or that chooses you. And Alec stole from both, and it's because he mattered more than all of those people. Hakeem Pinckney is in a I'm going to call it a cut rate nursing home facility where his ventilator becomes unplugged. I mean, this is somebody who needs the money. All of the people that he stole from needed this money. Arthur Badger, that I represent, he had 6 small children from 2 to 11 years old, and their mama had died in this crash. He needed this money. Right. And, this wasn't, you're in a wreck, you get a check kind of people. And that doesn't happen anyway in the real world. This were people that were seriously in need of these funds, and he was more important. He was always more important. And if that's the person, when you put your needs, your wants, your desires, whatever in the hell it is that drove Alec, and in front of everybody, your family, that's the kind of person who would kill his family to protect himself.
Yeah. The ventilator plug, it resonated with a lot of people out there. That's for sure. And your comment there. So during sentencing, Judge Newman gave you a very high compliment.
Yeah.
He referred to you as a tiger for your legal prowess. What did you think of that?
In the moment, I think his words were, with a tiger like Mark Tinsley on your tail. I can imagine what you felt. And, it was emotional for me, and for the same reason I said earlier. I knew Paul and Maggie, and even in the mind of a sociopath, to the thought that these 2 innocent people were killed because I was putting pressure on Alec, it was upsetting, and I was emotional about it, and I went back and I was emotional with the judge, and he, it's not logical. I can make a certain logic in my mind, but it's emotional. It's emotional response. We're emotional beings. I mean, we don't always think logically, and so I don't know that it's guilt that I felt. And afterwards, somebody said, "I bet you're relieved. I bet you're happy." No, I'm not happy. I feel dirty. I feel dirty is the only word that I can think of, because I'd never want to be associated with the reason that 2 innocent people are killed.
Right.
And that was the in terms of the pressure that I felt, was making sure that to begin with, that Judge Newman understood what I thought and why I thought that Alec had done it, at least this part of it. And then the jury, I wanted it was, because it's some complicated stuff, not for Judge Newman, but certainly for the jury to understand. And so, yeah, it was nice. It was a nice thing to say. And at first I thought he was talking about the fact that I said I carried an orange backpack in Carolina, but
I don't know if if a lot of people are going to catch that in the chat here, but that was it's pretty funny. Well,
so I went to Clemson, and we were Clemson Tigers.
Yeah.
So Clemson Tigers, and I carried an orange backpack. But no, that's not.
The courtroom, by the way,
was talking about, because.
Did you bring it into the courtroom, by the way?
No, I didn't. Yeah. but no, and when I went back, and I, because I went, as I listened to what Judge Newman said, there's a moment where I realized that I'm holding my breath. And then at the same time, I recognize that everybody in the whole courtroom is holding their breath. It's just, and, he is so even keeled, so deliberate in what he's saying. And I went back and I told him, I said, Judge, I have never heard a more articulate, powerful string of words put together than what you just said out there. And I think that because he was talking to Alec because he knew he had seen Alec's family. I mean, this just wasn't you had a wonderful family. This is not coming from someone who just saw their pictures blown up on the screen. He saw them at the trial lawyers convention for years and years and years.
Right.
He would have seen them in those places, and so those were the words I wish that I could have said to Alec. If I could, I couldn't have put those words together, but it was the most moving thing I think I've ever heard a person say, and it didn't appear to me he was reading anything. I mean, he was just speaking, and because he continued when I went back into his chambers. I mean, he said, I've never had someone who'll admit it. Just the same thing he said to Alec, and then he told his wife that, in fact, he told her about the case that I tried, and he could imagine the pressure, and because I didn't leave any stone unturned in that other case, and clearly I wasn't gonna leave a stone unturned in this case. And I see somebody just commented about the judge losing his son, and yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine? And I really, if it had been me, I would have had to comment on that loss. And maybe you can't, because we're not equipped to deal with the loss of our own child. We just can't do it. But here's someone who suffered an incredible loss by the loss of his son right before the beginning of this trial. And, here's someone who kills his son to continue to be able to steal and live whatever lifestyle it is that he's living. And I'm confident Judge Newman would have given anything to have his son back. Yeah,
I guarantee it.
I love Judge Newman too. He's just a fantastic person.
It was a swing of the pendulum, and where you could hear it not only in his admonition, but you could feel it. And I think I think the world felt it, and anybody that goes back now and rewatches that day, it was really a message to humanity. And I mean, I know it was directed at Alec and the horrendous, crimes that he's committed, but there was a sense of humanity in Judge Newman's presentation that presented itself in such a fashion, to your point, that said, and he didn't say it, but you knew he was feeling it. I would give anything for that brief moment to have my son one more time. And here you are. And I'm just asking you, did you do it? Basically. And Alec couldn't find, he showed no emotion, didn't lose a beat. He was mad dogging everybody as he was walking out of the room. Did you get a stare, by the way, at any time in the courtroom from him? I don't know if
the only time was when I was telling about the Hilton Head, because I was looking at him as I was saying it, looking into his eyes, and and I said, when he got right in my face, he was looking at me and I was looking at him. And then towards the end of that, and I said, but I wasn't intimidated. And then he broke eye contact. And that was the only time, Creighton was pacing back and forth such. I was trying to make sure I was listening to what he said, but that was the only time that we he really made eye contact with me, and we stared at each other for a few seconds.
Interesting. The Netflix series told the story of what happened the night of the boat wreck in Mallory's, and about the Murdaugh dynasty. Did you think they got it right? Do you think they got it right?
Well, they got some things wrong. I think the thing about the Netflix documentary is they had so much, and I believe that the people who produced that from Son of Mark are some very gifted people. What happened is after the murders, Jim Griffin, there were a number of news outlets that had requested the criminal file on the boat crash, and the AG's office wouldn't release it. And Jim Griffin made a comment that clearly that was because the boat crash was related to the murders. And Mallory's family was incensed by that. And we had not given any statements to anyone. And that was what, so almost immediately on the heels of that, we sat down with 2020 and then talked to other people. But when Jenner first with Son of Mark pitched the idea, I mean, he clearly understood the whole pervasive nature of just what all was involved in this. I mean, you got a banker, you got Alec, you got this all of this law enforcement involvement, so I think coming into it that they had the ability to tell the story with a whole lot more feel for just how pervasive everything and how interconnected everything was. I mean, everything's connected. At different times I've said there's 1,000 rabbit holes and there's a rabbit in every one. Everything's connected. And I used to, I remember when a Dateline producer called me and said there are these two PIs and they went to Sandy Smith, which was Stephen Smith's mother, and they got her iPad and they broke it. And I thought, wow, that was terrible, but I don't think that's got anything to do with my case. Well, it did. And I just didn't know about it yet. I just didn't know the why. And so, the one thing I learned was to not dismiss anything and try, and which is hard to do when you've got people from all over the world sending you information, some good, some bad. I mean, for instance, the picture that I used of Buster and John Marvin in the Las Vegas casino gambling, somebody sent me that. And I used that to have the judge appoint a receiver in the case.
Yeah, they made a phone call. They made a phone call about that. And
anonymous person sent me that. That's right.
Yeah, and I think he won a beef stick from the commentary.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Sure.
On the phone call?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
He won about 6 or 8 beef sticks. He said, "You'd be proud of me."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I couldn't miss the opportunity.
But I think that was what they were going for, and then maybe Netflix didn't quite think that people would understand. I mean, it's been a big success as I understand it in terms of people watching it. I think they did a good job with the story they told. I just think they had the ability to tell a bigger story. And maybe they're going to come back and do some more episodes. I don't know.
I think, so you'll find this interesting. I just did an interview. I can tell you who it is. It's the American Bar Association lawyer, the Review, the magazine that you guys all get. So I just did an interview with them about the power of social media. And if it's used correctly, what are the ups and downs? Other than that, is it the Wild West? Yeah, it's 50-50. But I think that picture that was sent to you is a perfect example of the power of the reach of social media, the fact that this, somebody sitting in Vegas, gambling, and you're working the death of a 19-year-old, innocent human being who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, i.e. outside of her, her boyfriend and her friends there, and alcohol's involved and all the other stuff. But the fact that the power of a millisecond can change the dynamic of the way things are today. That's a powerful tool, and I think you used it appropriately and correctly. And look what the
Yeah.
truth. Go ahead.
Well, the difficulty, and you've referenced it without referencing it, but lawyers, there are rules on pretrial publicity and what we can talk about before a case, and generally speaking, we can't talk about much, but we can try to correct the record. If Jim Griffin goes on and says clearly this is related to, they think that someone involved in the boat crash is a suspect, we can go talk about that. But social media, with bots and fake accounts and trolls and I mean, sometimes you sound like a conspiracy nut, but I'm just telling you, it's real.
It's real.
And they're there, and you can go to some of these closed groups, and there's people just pounding away, who are being paid to do it, who may or may not be real. There are different firms where you have this AI bots that are responding to these things, and from Twitter to Facebook to. Yeah.
I got hammered. Just Google my name. I mean, I've been hammered. I can't tell you how many times, over something that a person that doesn't even exist. I've done this and this and this, and I'm like, this is a robot or something. I mean, it's not a real person. So I have a question with all that, with all of the. Well, first of all, can you answer this question? What what about the paper you whipped out?
So when the case starts on Tuesday, Creighton has me come because he thinks that there's going to be a proffer then. I think I'm right. And when Dick comes in the courtroom and Dick sees me, Dick already knows. Dick's read my testimony in front of the state grand jury. So Dick knows what I'm going to say. And they had filed a motion that day, which Dick sort of interrupts. And it was interesting because Creighton and Jim are arguing about a motion, and then Dick just interrupts and starts to argue the motion directed at me. And they had written this memo, and I read the memo. And when I read the memo, I knew they didn't know about the order. So I printed off the order, and I showed Creighton that morning, and I said, don't ask me about it. Don't ask me anything that even gets close to this, because he's gonna go there, and it was tough. It was tough holding it as long as I held it, and I waited and just tried to wait on the right time, because I didn't want to miss the opportunity. But I knew where they were coming from. And it sucks to be predictable, but I could see where he was coming from, and it was a tough questioning.
It's kind of like that bag of corn just down underneath you. Every once in a while they're going to show up, and you're just kind of sitting there going, well, that's interesting. I might as well take care of it. Yeah. Oh, it was a classic moment. I think everybody jumped out of their chair. I think it was perfect. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to play you in the movie, in the big screen, right? We're gonna, guys, who do you, just in chat, who do you think is going to play Mark on the big screen here when Hollywood gets a hold of this whole thing here? Let's see here. So are you up for a couple of questions, my friend? I've had you for an hour and 15 minutes. Are you good? Are you good with time?
Yeah. I mean, it's my anniversary, but it's just me and 4 dogs. So we're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
they're actually asleep in the floor, so they don't care.
Okay, yeah, not Tom Cruise. Somebody said not Tom Cruise. Yeah. Why doesn't he look like Tom Cruise? He looks a little. I guarded Tom Cruise for 4 days in San Diego. That's where I did my career down there, and he didn't talk to me. It was during the filming of Top Gun in the 80s. And I spent 4 days with him. Guy didn't even say a word. So you've got Ben Affleck, Keanu Reeves, Costner. Okay, so let's get a question up here for Mark. Bradley Cooper. There you go. There he's a Bradley Cooper guy. That looks about right. Man, you're one popular dude here. I'm gonna have to get a Matthew McConaughey. Okay. He want this. The real me says, I like to know who's going to play Alec. Yeah, really. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one. Well, let's see here. I just lost that one. Okay, let's see here. In the court, a piece of evidence, Jeannie asked me in the Sophia, those are nothing they gave me. Paranoid thinking. Okay, that's more of a comment. Thank you. We appreciate that. What's your 4 dogs' names?
So I've got Peanut, who's a boykin. I've got Bear, Daisy, and Bella. And Peanut's the one that's, I don't know, people have seen it. She's gone to court with me a couple of times.
Let's see here. As odd they putting those two things in the same in camera, you suggest ring a jury. Do you think he could have fabricated evidence in his cases? You know what? That was an interesting comment. Do we think Alec could have fabricated information in his cases? I was really awestruck when the judge Newman said, your family has been taking care of this courtroom, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, for years and years, for people, the death penalty, for lesser than what's going on here. And I was wondering if that was, what did that mean? What exactly did that mean from Judge Newman to Alec about his family's run in that courthouse for so many years? And the fact that he had to take his grandfather's picture down, before.
I didn't know. When I heard him say the words about taking down the, Clooney probably is got enough of a comical side, he could do it. I think those other actors they suggested were too serious, but on the portrait, at first I thought that he was taking it down because of a concern that someone would feel intimidated by this, the impact of this influence and of who they were. But when I heard the judge, I really got the sense that he had taken down the portrait to ensure that Alec got a fair trial. So, and maybe it could be for both reasons, because he said it was for both reasons. But it never dawned on me that he would take it down because someone could, or this jury could possibly hold it against Alec that he had come from this position of influence. And I think that was really the point of what he was saying. Here you had you had everything. You had a beautiful family. You had a family who, and I think that their family had done a lot of good. I mean, I don't know about. I've never heard a rumor that, well, they concocted evidence or they sent this person to the electric chair for. I mean, the murder cases that I've heard that Alec's grandfather prosecuted or even that his father prosecuted, they were some pretty serious murders. I mean, there wasn't any fabrication there, but I just got the sense that it was, you had everything. you've come from this position. I mean, you're a lawyer, and and I don't know that the world holds lawyers to different standard, but lawyers hold lawyers to different standards. And we're entrusted with everything, with people's lives, with people's livelihoods, and to abuse that power to mar and the system of ours and the way that he has done, and be such a stain on our profession. He really hurt a lot of people that we will never know about because of it.
Interesting. So here's,
I think.
well, and we're, which gets into this Madeline question here. Were there any quiet conversations about AM amongst lawyer, basically the in crowd, and his propensity to stretch the truth? It seems like personalities like that would generate questions among their colleagues. What do you think?
Well, so what I said to begin with, I mean, you take Hakeem Pinckney, or you take Donna Badger, who died in this crash with UPS. I mean, you don't have to stretch those facts. I mean, so not typically. I mean, what Alec would do is, if you had a case with Alec, he might not return your calls, and then you're on, Sunday night, tomorrow we're going to have a roster meeting. Your case is on the roster. You don't think that Alec's ready to try the case because you haven't heard from Alec. He won't return your calls. And so suddenly Monday morning he says, "Chris, guess what? I'm ready to go." And so he would do that sort of power play and use it to his advantage. But no, I mean, I think for the most part, the cases that he was stealing these funds from, they were those cases. The facts spoke for themselves. I mean, you got terrible deaths and horrible injuries and good liability. I mean, and that's the thing about when you're trying to present someone's case. I mean, you don't want to take.
He'll come back. He'll be back, everybody. We're just he's having a little audio problem here, not an issue. Mark's out in the country, so if he drops off, I'm sure he'll jump right back in here. So it'll be just a second. So what a great guy, isn't he? What a great guest. Just an amazing human being. I mean, he's been dealing with so many personal issues as well. He'll come back here. And the fact that he's cut some time out of his schedule to come up here for us and share as much as he is here. What an absolutely amazing human being. And I want him to have the last word here with what's going on. Hopefully he'll come back in here. Here he is.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. We got you. So, there was one question about the GoFundMe. Yeah. Can you speak to that, or are you allowed to,
Yeah.
or is it okay? I don't want to jeopardize anything. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have seen people suggest that there was something improper. I mean, clearly Phil Barber suggested that there was something improper. Shelley Smith was only subpoenaed by the state. And you heard Judge Newman at one point say that once they get off the stand, they're released from their subpoena. So it's complete hogwash that, she's under subpoena. That's what Dick was trying to get Phil Barber to argue. She was under subpoena. She wasn't under any subpoena from them. She wasn't even on their witness list. she was on the state's witness list, and she had been subpoenaed to testify by the state. So that would be the first thing. If I had been asking Shelley Smith the questions, and my wife was sitting there, and I said, he needs to ask her or say, you're afraid, aren't you? This woman, I was in the courtroom when she testified, and tears were streaming down her face. And you could tell she was terrified.
Yeah, she was.
And, I was moved. I was really moved by the fact that she was essentially working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to take care of her grandchildren and her family. And so I wanted to help her. Renee Beach shared, not necessarily to me, she just shared it on Facebook, the GoFundMe. I saw it. I donated. And then somebody quickly said, oh, Mark Tinsley donated. I didn't think anything about it. I really wasn't trying to hide it, but I made it anonymous after that. I'm not ashamed of what I did. I would, I'm glad a lot of other people. Yeah, she was a nice lady. She was deserving. I was moved, not by what she said, but just what she was willing to do and go through in that moment. But I was mainly moved by the fact that she was tirelessly working to take care of her family, and she was jeopardizing that by getting up there and testifying. And I felt for her, so I gave her $1,000.
Good for you.
I'd give her $1,000 again. And I think that much to Judge Newman's dismay, they didn't ask me about that on the stand, because he said it'll be interesting fodder on cross-examination. I think he was hoping they would ask me, but they didn't ask me. I was hoping they would ask me.
Well, it just goes to show your heart right there, your family, your wife, and your sweet wife now, and your family as a whole. I mean, that just shows what kind of person you are. I mean, here's a wonderful soul who you could tell. I mean, her body language would just spoke volumes. She was just so, because she was trapped. She was trapped. I mean, he put her in a really bad situation. Yeah, that was an epic moment. Oh, Hopper, I totally agree. Let's see here. Was there not a life insurance policy Alex Buster Collect mentioned Mark in his first testimony? There wasn't.
There was not. There wasn't. And so just so people understand, I mean, when the receivers were appointed by the court, if there are a couple of different kinds of life insurance. One could be a whole life policy, which would have value, and the role of the receivers was essentially to marshal, to pull together all of Alec's assets. And so we had looked for the life insurance for that reason, to see if he had life insurance. We couldn't find it. I'm told that Dick subpoenaed to try to find life insurance, and Dick couldn't find it. Now, I thought it was interesting on the cross-examination of Ryan Kelly, the SLED agent, by Dick. Dick never once said suicide. He never once said life insurance. You heard it in the audio recording from the rehab center in Atlanta, but you never heard Dick say it. Jim said it. Alex said it. But I'm just, like Mark Ball said, somebody needs to show it to me. And $12 million in life insurance. Alec was $386,000 overdrawn on his checking account. You think he was actually paying a premium, and the premium would have been substantial. He wasn't making payments on a premium. He didn't have any life insurance. That was all some more spin. Once they got caught,
mm-hmm.
It had to be, he had to explain why he was doing this, why it wasn't to cover up and say there's really a vigilante after me and my family. I was really trying to do it for the life insurance. You don't take your health insurance card when you go to try to kill yourself. I'm sorry.
What else did you think was kind of what about Stephen Smith's iPad connection to Mallory's case? Is there any truth to that, or
So
that's
so the two
just
the,
out
the
there?
two PIs, and that's another case. That's the outrage civil conspiracy case that I've filed on behalf
Right.
of the Beach family. But they're two PIs that were working, and we've alleged to get information about, at that time, was about the Murdaughs.
Okay, and
So
if you can't comment on it, I totally get that too. I don't want to throw a curveball
yeah.
at you. I don't want to jeopardize anything. You know me. I'm, it's trust me. We want justice for all parties involved in all directions. So I don't want to put you in a bad spot. If so, let's see her. Let's see her. Are there other kids involved drinking? No, blah blah blah. I think that case has been resolved, and of course, I think the kids. I'll answer that one. The kids themselves have all stood up and told the truth of what took place that night. And how's Mallory's family doing? By the way, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's a reason that it's illegal in all 50 states to not drink until you're 21 years of age. So, I remember my grandfather. My grandfather was in World War II, and I remember when I was 18 complaining about if you're old enough to go into the army or be drafted, because we still had to draft. We didn't have the draft. You still had to register, whatever that was. I remember doing that, and and so I was complaining about not being able to drink. If you're old enough to go into the army, you ought to be old enough to drink. And I'll never forget him saying, because his brother was about a year older than him, and you had to be 16 to join the army. And my great grandmother, they lied on his, whatever it is, the application. I don't think it would be an application, but they wrote the wrong date. So because he was only 15, and he went to North Africa, probably 16 or 17, and till the war ended, and he was in North Italy. And he said that the reason that they send kids is because by the time you're 30 or 40, you wouldn't get off the boat. You know enough, and that's the reality of alcohol. I mean, no drunk person has ever got in a car and said, today's the night I'm going to run into somebody.
Right.
I'm gonna. It's not going to happen to me, and kids do not have the life experiences to know the consequence of their action. Now, do you not like that? I'm sorry. You can Google it. I mean, some of these people who make that statement are in that suspect AI bot class to me. But because there are a lot of people that do that don't have any followers and say. But go and look at when we changed the law from 18 to 21, and just how many highway deaths related to alcohol, how they decreased, and it's a real thing. So, and then the other part of that is, Mallory has paid her share of that responsibility.
Yeah, it's. I remember,
So,
the fact that this whole thing. I mean, nobody planned the totality of what ultimately occurred. It occurred because, there's the old saying, the greatest gift you're given is life. Second under that is the ability to choose. And then when you add alcohol, you add underage, you add deception to get that alcohol underage, then it just creates all kinds of problem. And the outcome is you don't get to choose the consequences. And to Mark's point, Mallory paid the ultimate price of those consequences. And, I guess, that's why going forward, hopefully, he'll come back here, but hopefully going forward, that it's a lesson for a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Lar, Here he comes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so alcohol destroys lives. That's the bottom line, right? And drug abuse resistance education back in the day, just the 8 ways of saying no, for 5th graders back in the time. And sometimes it sits, but when you have a culture of around you of a family that condones it and allows it, then it just keeps going the way that it's going. So that said, all right, my friend, is there anything I haven't asked? Whoop, wait a minute. I've got 2 more up here. This one is more of a comment. Thank you, Mimi. You're awesome. And this one, Mark, any thoughts on Harpoolian saying he was honored to represent a man lawyer who had admittedly stolen and hurt so many people? That's kind of a interesting question. What are your thoughts on it? It's a fine line.
Well, I think what he said was he was honored because he was innocent. I mean, I will say this about Dick. Dick truly believes in the system that we have, and that everyone is presumed to be innocent until proven to be guilty. And so, I have a lot of respect for what Dick does. I don't necessarily respect all the ways that Dick does it, but it wasn't effective here. It could be effective somewhere else. I think Dick's a great lawyer. And I think that he brings a lot to the table for his clients. But, I mean, the evidence was, you've got a liar who is at the kennels within seconds of when his family was murdered. I don't care what lawyer you have. They're not going to be able to.
So I'm going with this one. I'm going George Clooney's going to play you.
We'll have to do this again when I have a better internet.
No, you're good. My friend, the fact that you did this on your anniversary, just again, you're a man of your word. I mean, I had you for last week, but and I know, but you were in the Keys on that day. So, but absolutely, let's get you back here. And so here's my tradition. Okay. I always like to leave on a high note. So we take everybody to Hawaii. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step out, and then you say whatever is on your heart, wherever your heart takes you at that moment. And you've got close to just under 8,000 people on this live here tonight watching you. So basically it's a very large arena. Okay.
All right.
I want to say personally, it's a great privilege to, meet you personally and to call you a friend now. And hopefully I can get you back here. Maybe I can get you back with that other Tasmanian devil, and you know what I'm talking about. And
I won't get to say anything if you bring Eric on here for sure.
Well, I can't wait to see you in action, coming up here. You're a great man. And by the way, everybody hit that thumbs up button for him, and make sure, you pass this on to your social media accounts on behalf of Mark and just everything that he's been doing. I mean, here's a man, seriously, that he's married way up. I saw your Facebook thing, and just, you've outstepped yourself on this one, brother. Good for you. God bless you.
I think we both have. They're the ones that actually set this up, by the way.
Okay. Yes. And and just so everybody knows, our wives were talking to each other, and my people were talking to his people, and we got it done. So, okay. I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to go to Hawaii when you're done. So, Mark, again, thank you so much for being a guest on the interview room. And it's so great to get to know you, and we're going to do this again. We look forward to it. So you've got the final word from me.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I enjoyed it. I think the thing that the Beach family wants everybody to know is that all of the people that have reached out, their thoughts and prayers, they really mean a lot, and they're very much appreciated, and they've helped these people get through an incredibly difficult time, and they've helped me. I mean, a lot of people have reached out to me as well, and your appreciation for the work that we've done to try to help this family get some level of accountability is very much appreciated. And so I thank you, and nice talking with you.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.